Good morning. This is the Paradise Unicorn Priestess bringing you day 86 of A Course in Miracles, the Yin translation where we use female words. This would be March 27th if you are starting at the new year. From darkness to light. When you are weary, remember you have hurt yourself. Your comforter will rest you, but you cannot. You do not know how. For if you did, you could never have grown weary. Unless you hurt yourself, you could never suffer in any way, for that is not God's will for her child. Pain is not of her, for she knows no attack, and her peace surrounds you silently. God is very quiet, for there is no conflict in her. Conflict is the root of all evil, for being blind, it does not see whom it attacks. Yet it always attacks the child of God, and the child of God is you. God's child is indeed in need of comfort, for she knows not what she does, believing her will is not her own. The realm is hers, and yet she wanders homeless. At home in God she is lonely, and amid all her sisters she is friendless. Would God let this be real if she did not want to be alone herself? And if your will is hers, it cannot be true of you because it is not true of her. Oh, my child, if you knew what God wills for you, your joy would be complete. And what she wills has happened, for it was always true. When the light comes and you have said, God's will is mine, you will see such beauty that you will know it is not of you. Out of your joy, you will create beauty in her name, for your joy could no more be contained than hers. The bleak little world will vanish into nothingness, and your heart will be so filled with joy that it will leap into heaven and into the presence of God. I cannot tell you what this will be like, for your heart is not ready. Yet I can tell you and remind you often that what God wills for herself, she wills for you, and what she wills for you is yours. The way is not hard, but it is very different. Yours is the way of pain, of which God knows nothing. That way is hard indeed and very lonely. Fear and grief are your guests, and they go with you and abide with you on the way. But the dark journey is not the way of God's child. Walk in light, and do not see the dark companions, for they are not fit companions for the child of God, who was created of light and in light. The great light always surrounds you and shines out from you. How can you see the dark companions in a light such as this? If you see them, it is only because you are denying the light. But deny them instead, for the light is here and the way is clear. God hides nothing from her child, even though her child would hide herself. Yet the child of God cannot hide her glory, for God wills her to be glorious and gave her the light that shines in her. You will never lose your way, for God leads you. When you wander, you but undertake a journey that is not real. The dark companions, the dark way, are all illusions. Turn towards the light, for the little spark in you is part of a light so great that it can sweep you out of all darkness forever. For your mother is your creator, and you are like her. The children of light cannot abide in darkness, for darkness is not in them. Do not be deceived by the dark comforters, and never let them enter the mind of God's child, for they have no place in her temple. When you are tempted to deny her, remember that there are no other gods to place before her, and accept her will for you in peace, for you cannot accept it otherwise. Only God's comforter can comfort you. In the quiet of her temple, she waits to give you the peace that is yours. Give her peace, that you may enter the temple and find it waiting for you. But be holy in the presence of God, or you will not know that you are there. For what is unlike God cannot enter her mind, because it was not her thought, and therefore does not belong to her. And your mind must be as pure as hers, if you would know what belongs to you. Guard carefully her temple, for she herself dwells there and abides in peace. You cannot enter God's presence with the dark companions beside you, but you also cannot enter alone. All your sisters must enter with you, for until you have accepted them, you cannot enter. For you cannot understand wholeness unless you are whole, and no part of the child can be excluded if she would know the wholeness of her mother. In your mind, you can accept the whole childship and bless it with the light your mother gave it. Then you will be worthy to dwell in the temple with her, because it is your will not to be alone. God blessed her child forever. If you will bless her in time, you will be in eternity. Time cannot separate you from God if you use it on behalf of the eternal. I have described A Course in Miracles to people as an approach where every part of the creation is absolutely crucial and necessary and cannot be excluded, that every particle is precious. I don't know about you, but I speak for myself in that my default mindset before coming to A Course in Miracles was that there are things that are good and desirable, and there are things that are bad and not desirable that should be thrown out, thrown away, gotten rid of. Lesson 86 is the review of lessons 71 through 72. These ideas are for review today. 71. Only God's plan for salvation will work. It is senseless for me to search wildly about for salvation. I have seen it in many people and in many things, but when I reached for it, it was not there. I was mistaken about where it is. I was mistaken about what it is. I will undertake no more idle seeking. Only God's plan for salvation will work, and I will rejoice because her plan can never fail. These are some suggested forms for applying this idea specifically. God's plan for salvation will save me from my perception of this. This is no exception in God's plan for my salvation. Let me perceive this only in the light of God's plan for salvation. 72. Holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation. Holding grievances is an attempt to prove that God's plan for salvation will not work, yet only her plan will work. By holding grievances, I am therefore excluding my only hope of salvation from my awareness. I would no longer defeat my own best interests in this insane way. I would accept God's plan for salvation and be happy. Specific applications for this idea might be in these forms. I am choosing between misperception and salvation as I look on this. If I see grounds for grievances in this, I will not see the grounds for my salvation. This calls for salvation, not attack. Okay, that's it. Happy reviewing. Until next time.